Hey everybody, it's Tony George from DocSports.com. Thursday night update. Thursdays are always a big update. I'll give you some comments on the NHL and Major League Baseball. I also want to talk about college football tonight, as well as this NFL game. So there's a lot going on here in this update. Now, first of all, you're here for free plays. You're here for free winners. I'm judged on free winners. We'll go over unfairly many times, but go over to on this channel and check out the Gridiron Six Pack. 3 college, 3 NFL games, myself and Griffin Murphy. Over a 26 game sample size on that show year to date, we're 68% against the spread. That's why you're here. It's a half-hour show. We break them down. You get some insights, some betting angles, some other things to consider. Tune in. You want freebies? There's freebies. Okay, also, just in Major League Baseball very quickly, this postseason describes the regular season in its entirety. The top 5 teams in baseball entering the postseason are 1-12. The Dodgers just got swept. Now, we went 2-0 yesterday. We had Philly and we had Houston for a 2-0 sweep. I'm passing on the game tonight. I'm assuming that Atlanta might be able to bounce back with Strider on the hill. I'm not willing to lay that number. Philly's hot. And playing in Philadelphia is anytime. I don't care whether it's the NBA, the NFL, or Major League Baseball, is a nightmare. Those fans there, in a good way, are at riot stage. It's brutal to go play there. It's a tough place to play. So I don't want anything to do with it. But Major League Baseball, the O's. Right now, Texas looks like the best team in baseball, in my opinion. And I've not had a good baseball year. I've told you all year long. I stunk in baseball. It might be my last year ever doing baseball. Based on what I've seen, it's impossible to handicap. There's guys over at Docs that are up, 80 units for all I know. I don't follow them. But it's the craziest thing of it. You just can't make this stuff up anymore. It's so crazy. Tread lightly. I am, down the stretch here. But nonetheless, let's talk about a couple of games tonight. Number one is I'm not putting out any premium plays until Friday in college football. And unless I'm mistaken, I have not lost. Maybe I've lost one. Maybe. I don't think I have, but any games in college on Thursday or Friday. Now, I've lost a bunch on Saturday. We're going to change that this week. We had 2 and 3 week last week. We're killing it in the NFL right now, just burying them. So we got a great card for you this week, too. We'll tell you about that in a minute. But this game tonight between West Virginia and Houston, I've never been a Dana Holgorsen fan, ever. And Houston doesn't have that good a team this year. West Virginia's flying under the radar. Their only loss is to Penn State. That's respectable. They run the ball. Brown up there was on the hot seat. Figured he was going to be first fired this year. Look what he's done. They're flying under the radar. They're laying 3. This came down from 3.5 to 3. Primetime dog, I know. Blah, blah, blah. But I can only lean West Virginia in that game. I think they can run the ball at will. Move the chains, eat clock, and whatever Houston wants to do, which is throw it all over the place and play no defense, But Dana Holgorsen, stamp of approval, that's how he rolls. I think West Virginia might get him on national TV. It's a small lean. Wasn't strong enough opinion to pull the trigger on a 3 or 4 unit play, but it is what it is. Now, when it comes to this Kansas City and Denver game, let's discuss this because there's more than one way to skin a cat. And if you're betting football, especially NFL football, you need to realize that you're not locked into side or total. Now, the only way for me to even think about betting this game is prop bets. I got a 3-play card, and we're crushing it with NFL props. We had a 7-unit winner on Monday night. We got a 3-pack tonight. But that being said, Thursday night games are always tricky. double-digit favorites on Thursday night are extremely tricky. Now, you're talking about a Denver team that let New York Jets on offense hang over 30 on them. Talking about a defense that allowed the Miami Dolphins to hang 70 on them. If Kansas City wanted to show up with their A game here tonight, they could name the score. And what scares me is I'm sitting around last night watching the baseball games at a sports bar here with a couple buddies. And everybody's talking about the Kansas City game, NFL game, places full of avid sports fans, avid sports bettors. Nobody even had fear. Oh, they're going to kill them. They're going to kill them. Lay it, lay it, lay it, lay it. Everybody. Not one person made a case for Denver. And it's hard to make a case for Denver. Other than the fact it's a Thursday night. Kansas City, Kelsey might not play. Even though Taylor Swift's supposed to be there tonight. He's 50-50, questionable. Game time decision. Why would you play him? Plus, Kansas City's got the Chargers on deck. Okay? Then they got to play the Broncos week after that. Then they got to bye. And then they got to go to Germany and play Miami, which will be the game of the week. But that being said, you just don't know what Kansas City is going to bring to the table. Kansas City Mahomes has never lost to Denver as a starter. They're 15-0 straight up against Denver. They're clearly, you got one of the best teams in the NFL, probably second best team in the NFL, arguably one of the worst. And Russell Wilson is not a game changer anymore. He's on the downside of a career. There's a lot of chemistry issues at Denver. I mean, the Jets, with Zach Wilson, go in and punk you in your own house. They ran the ball for over 220 yards on him. I mean, you take a look at some of these numbers of Denver, and it's hard to ignore that Kansas City's at 10.5. It's hard to ignore or hard to argue why Kansas City, with the best quarterback in the NFL and maybe the best coach in the NFL, are laying 10.5. I was looking at some numbers here defensively for Denver. Let's go down them. Dead last in yards allowed. 450 yards a game allowed. A Denver defense. 32nd in yards per play allowed at 7.2. Kansas City's 10th in the league at yards per play. They're dead last. They're giving up 187 yards on the ground a game. Dead last. Yards per rush allowed. Almost 6 yards per carry. 5.9 yards. Dead last. Pass yards allowed. Third worst. I mean, go down. Completion rate. You ready for this? 77% completion rate allowed against them. Dead last. By the way, Kansas City is number 1 in the NFL at sacks allowed. Mahomes stand back there all day long. Kelsey could be on one leg and have 8 targets and 6 receptions for 57 yards, 60 yards, whatever it is. Now, when you look at scoring, Denver 24 points per game, Kansas City 25. I mean, you go down the list here, I am not willing to lay 10.5 points. I don't do it in the NFL. I can count the number of times in 32 years of doing this on these 10 fingers or less how many times I've laid a double digit in the NFL. And maybe back in the late 90s, early 2000s when there wasn't as much parity as there is in the NFL now, I would lay it. But you just don't know what Kansas City is going to bring to the table. Just enough to win? Or do they just drop? Because if they want to drop the hammer, they'll beat the piss out of them 42-10. That being said, the best way to play this game is the same game teaser. Tease Kansas City down, 2-team, 6-point teaser, same game, side and total. I tease the side pick down to 4.5 on Kansas City. I'd lay the 4.5. Even if they just bring their C game, B- game, they're still a touchdown better. And I take that total of 47.5 and I tease it down to 41.5 to take the over. That's the best way to play this game if you want a small amount of action on it, in my opinion. I don't know what the game plan is going in here for Kansas City. I can clearly see them being way up and rest starters. Put it away early, rest starters. Maybe first half line, but you don't know. I just don't know what can. They're going to try and run the ball. Mahomes is not going to have a big night. I would be surprised if he exceeded his passing yards number. Because you can run Pacheco, McKinnon, Edwards-Helaire against the worst rush defense. And you've noticed Kansas City's wanting to run the football a lot more now. It opens up play action passing. It sets them back in a nickel, soft zone. They throw underneath a lot, possession receiver type stuff. Andy Reid can pick and choose what he wants to do in this game offensively. Him and Nagy, who's the co-offensive coordinator. But that's the way I'd play this game. Now, over at the website, we release all of our football plays today. The card is not complete. We will have a top play again in the NFL. Banged a 7-unit play last week on San Francisco. We're on a 7-2-1 run. And bear in mind, the push and one of those losses were involving teasers. In 2 weeks, we've only had one side or total loss, and that was Monday night with Green Bay Packers, which was a debacle. But that being said, we're hot. 2-3 last week in college football is totally unacceptable. We're going to change that this week. Going to have at least 4 games on Saturday, and we're going to have a Friday nighter for you. We're going to get it done. We have a 3-pack of prop plays in this game tonight. 8-3 on profit. Our last 11 NFL player prop cards. Got a 3-pack tonight off a 7-unit top play winner on Monday. Come on, let's go. NHL real quick. People are asking me about the NHL. Why aren't you putting them out? You were hot last year, blah, blah, blah. We went over 61% last year. And, of course, in money line, 61% of anything. Unless you never lay over minus 150 and you take a ton of totals, which is what we did. I let 3 or 4 or 5 games go by. Get some statistical data to work off of. Get a feel for what's going on. And then I start putting out plays on a very low volume basis. That's how you win money in moneyline sports. Pick and choose your spots, lots of totals. We have a system for totals we used last year. We crushed it. Same system's in place. They'll be up probably in maybe the weekend, first of next week for sure. So if you got a package, don't panic. I'm watching, I'm observing, I'm studying. It'll be there. All football plays up at 5 Central Day at DocSports.com. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back at you tomorrow with some free plays for the weekend. We didn't do good last weekend with free plays. We'll change that up for you a little bit this weekend.